Hey, ELA classes, what's going on? It's Mr. Hayes on Monday, May 18th, checking in with today's lesson. Big week ahead, an important one. This is the week that we write the large majority of our movie review. Pretty much every part from our planner that we worked on last week will now be translated into paragraph form as we write a professional sounding movie review about the movie that we chose. So, the first thing today is we are going to work on infusing the critic's voice right away in our writing. We want to take a certain type of voice and make it come alive on our paper. And we're going to be working on our intro paragraph, our summary paragraph, and our first body paragraph all today in our movie review document. It might sound like a lot, but as you saw from my Romeo and Juliet exemplar and the Call of the Wild one that I read out loud from Hollywood Reporter, these paragraphs are not long. They are very detailed. Each sentence really counts and really matters. They're efficient, but they're not too lengthy. So I think being able to do all three paragraphs today, the intro, the summary, and the first body, is very accessible, very doable for all of you. That is the goal that we're going to set for ourselves today, Monday, May 18th. So let's jump right into our module, okay? Announcements for today. Welcome back. The checklist is two things. Number one, you're going to finish watching this video I'm recording right now. Here's a little shortcut link to the slides I will go over in a second. And then you're going to write, as I said before, your first three paragraphs of your movie review, the hook in the intro, the summary, and the first body paragraph, all infusing this voice. That is the primary focus of our lesson today. Establishing our critic's voice is going to be weaved into all three of those paragraphs. If you're having trouble, I've got my optional sessions, and you can take a look at the week ahead below. Today's teaching point is that critics establish a strong voice by creating a distinct tone from the very beginning of their review. We're going to choose a voice and a tone to our review today, and you're going to start that immediately. You're not going to wait around to establish that voice and tone. It's going to begin sometimes with the first sentence of your review. When I'm finished with this mini lesson video, I'll post it here. And then, of course, the application activity. Your goal today is to write those first three paragraphs. The document to write this can be found here. In a moment, I will link to our Google Classroom page, depending on your core, which will send you right to your blank document to work on. So if I'm in core one, I'd click here, and it'll open up a document that looks just like this. Everyone will have a copy. But in order to do so, we need to learn something new about establishing voice and tone. So I have a slideshow today that will help you do that. I'd like to go to that right away. So if you click on that link here, as I just showed you, the link to today's slides, it'll take you to our slideshow for today. I'm going to go full screen. This slideshow not only has a little bit more about what voice and tone is, but has some examples that I wrote for Dead Poet Society. So here's the main page you're familiar with, the schedule I just outlined, the teaching point, and the video on the top right. First, I want to establish what the definition of voice is. I liked this. I found this online. I thought it fit really well with our movie review. Voice is the writer's music coming out through the words, the sense that a real person is speaking to you and cares about the message. It is the heart and soul of the writing, the magic, the wit, the feeling, the life and breath. It is flashes of spirit. When the writer is engaged personally with the topic, he or she imparts a personal flavor to the piece that is unmistakably his or hers alone. The voice is a little bit easier to establish in fiction, like a hero's journey chapter can have a real distinct voice, but it's doable in the type of writing we're doing right now as well, the movie review. It's all about making sure the reader knows that you care about the message and establishing that tone of voice, that unique perspective, that distinct perspective as you elaborate on your reasons, your evidence, and your information about the film. So let's go over some examples here. The first way that you can start to establish a distinct voice in your writing is by choosing a hook to use, by hooking in your reader and having your voice weaved into that hook. What I've done here is I've provided 6 different hook options for you. I'd like you to think about which one of these 6 fits your movie review the best. They are everything from number 1, an analogy, where you compare the movie or an actor to something else. So maybe you're comparing Black Panther to other superhero movies you've seen. 2, anecdote. Maybe you share a very short story that relates to the film. For me, when I was writing the Romeo and Juliet review, I started with an anecdote, a short story about how I had to watch this in 8th grade, and it was funny that I was now teaching it to 8th graders. Would I hate it as much as I did in 8th grade, or would I like it more? 3 is that rhetorical question posed to the readers to get them thinking. What if you had to sit down in a movie theater and stare at the worst acting in the world for 2 straight hours? Something like that. Hyperbole is a great one. We're going to have a lesson on figurative language later on in the week, but if you greatly exaggerate, if you couldn't pay me $1 million to sit through this crap again, that would be hyperbole. You may want to start with that. It's like, whoa, the reader's reading that, and this person has strong feelings, right? Set up a scenario. Imagine yourself stuck in quarantine, sick of your family, trying to avoid your annoying sister when Stargirl the movie comes on Disney Plus. You're thinking to yourself, this could be a welcome distraction. But no, it was worse than even playing with that annoying sister. Something like that. And then provide context. Maybe you give some background on yourself and your expertise with this type of movie. Roger Ebert did that in one of his reviews with Romeo and Juliet, where he said, I've seen Macbeth, I've seen Hamlet, I've seen Midsummer Night's Dream with Denzel Washington. Nothing compares to the dreck of this Romeo and Juliet remake. So a little bit of background on your experience, your expertise, your ethos with that type of film. So think about which one might fit, and you're going to start your first paragraph with that hook. Now, as you continue working on developing those 3 paragraphs today, your intro paragraph, your summary, and your first body paragraph, you want to stick to one distinct voice. You want to establish one voice, one word that is a constant reminder as you're writing of what you want to convey to the reader. What I mean by that is, for me, Dead Poet Society is a movie that has a tremendous impact on my life. I am so grateful that movie came into my life. I'm so thankful I was able to see it. So I'm going to stick to the voice of being grateful, of being happy that this movie came into my life and all the changes it provided for me. On my whole mindset towards teaching and education, and really push me forward on the path I'm on right now. Maybe your voice is a surprised voice. You expected the movie to be terrible and it was awesome, or vice versa. And so you're establishing an element of surprise throughout your writing. Maybe it's nasty. Maybe you're so angry that you wasted 2 hours of your precious time on a film this bad, and you just have a nasty, snarky, sarcastic, witty, angry tone throughout, and your voice reflects that. Or maybe joyous. I would say 80 to 90% of you chose movies you love. So maybe you are full of joy when you see this movie. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is a movie for me that always provides me joy and laughs. So I'm going to reflect that joy in my writing. I'm going to be very optimistic and glass half full and joyful with the way that I use my voice in my movie review. I'm going to be over the moon for the opportunity to talk about this movie I love so much. So you might choose one of these 4 voices. You might have a different word that comes into your mind. But you want to think about that word as you're writing and establish that consistent voice and have that be reflected in your movie review. So I've done that here with my next 3 slides. My next 3 slides are my 3 body paragraphs. Let me restate that. Forget I said that. The next 3 slides are my first 3 paragraphs. My intro, my summary, and my first body paragraph. So here in the introduction, there's essentially 2 parts to the intro paragraph, the hook and the main point. The main point is part of your planner. You have already written this out, so you can go back and use that. So I'm going to try to do a hook, weave in my main point, and establish my grateful voice as I'm writing my first paragraph. So here's what I came up with. This is the hook that I chose to use, number 5, the hook choice number 5, to set up a scenario, start to tell a story. That's what I try to do here. There are some movies, as I'm reading this out loud, there are some movies where you walk out of the theater believing their money was well spent. There are other movies that leave a lasting impact, a specific actor's performance or scene sticks with you days later, and you make sure to devote a night to a rewatch as soon as it's available on streaming. Then there is another category of films, a select club, a pantheon, if you will, that have the capacity to change someone's life. So that's my hook. I'm building up to the momentous occasion of seeing Dead Poet Society and the impact it had on my life. There are some movies you liked. There are some movies that you think about later and want to see again. The top tier are movies that change your life, and I've built up to that in my hook, and Dead Poet Society is that for me. That's what I said here as I get into my main point. That is Dead Poet Society for me. A movie so profound and enlightening, it helped me figure out, as Mr. Keating so eloquently put it, what to live for. On a broader scale, Dead Poets Society captures the spirit of growing up and finding your voice in an era where backing down to authority was not only encouraged, but expected. That last sentence there, I did not just make up off the top of my head today. Nope, I took that right from my planner on what my overall claim and main point was. So in my first paragraph, I have my hook, I have my main point, and I've weaved in that grateful voice into my writing. Second paragraph is the brief summary of the plot. I'm not going to read this one out loud, but what you want to do here is mention the main characters, the setting, and the primary conflict, but don't give away the ending of the movie. Don't give away too much. The movie review is meant for people to read and decide whether they want to see the movie on their own or not. So don't give away everything. Just give them the bare basics, the essentials. You can read that and what I did here with Dead Poet Society on your own. I would highly recommend it. Then the third paragraph for today that I'm writing is the first body paragraph. So where do I get this information? My first body paragraph is going to be my reason number one for my planner and the examples that go along with it. So if I go back to my planner, I can see that my reason number one is Neil's believable character, played by actor Robert Sean Leonard. That's the first reason I love this movie, is because of Neil and the actor who played him. And my two main examples of that, to back up this reason, after all, this is an argument, right? Is that he perfectly captures the essence of what it was like to grow up in the 50s where you're supposed to bow down to authority. And number two, the scene where Neil can't speak up and confront his father. So I translated all that information into a paragraph. Neil's character is the centerpiece of this coming of age story, and for good reason. So I'm establishing that reason. Leonard plays the role with tremendous nuance, alternating back and forth between brash confidence, like he is at school, and a subtle fear of failure and disappointing his influential father, which is a realistic conflict in an era where succumbing to these authority figures wasn't an option. You had to do it. You had to back down to your dad. So I love the way that this actor is confident at school with his friends, but when he sees his dad, he goes into a shell. In one scene after his secret acting gig was discovered, time well wasted according to Mr. Perry, Neil's father gives him a brief opening, imploring him to tell me how you really feel. Remember the scene from school? Neil's at a loss of words, simply whispering, nothing. Leonard's acting is never more impressive, each facial expression as he stares blankly into the snowy New England night, showing more internal pain and anguish. That's it. That's a paragraph. So in this one paragraph, I've brought up my reason and I've also mentioned my two examples that back it up. And now I've completed my work for today. I did my hook and intro paragraph, I did my summary, and I did my first body paragraph, all weaving in that voice of being grateful this movie entered my life. Okay? So that is your work for today. As I walk you through that slideshow, I hope that helps. When you're ready to begin writing, you're going to click on your class link. It'll take you to this blank document. My slides are here, as well as a link to my Romeo and Juliet exemplar. So if you want to go back and read this one, where I have my hook and my main point here, my summary in green, and then my in blue, my first body paragraph, you see another example, do so. Exit ticket is showing me in the Google Doc you have begun writing your movie review. That's it for today. I hope everyone has an awesome Monday. We'll get back here on Tuesday with a new lesson and continuing with our body paragraphs. Reach out if you need any help. Thanks, everybody.